Hey everybody, I am finally back. This past week I've been down with the flu, and I'm finally making some sort of recovery. If my voice sounds a little funnier than usual, that's gonna be why. For the past week, I've been playing mostly comfort games that I've always loved. You know, those old faithfuls that you go back to. However, I did finish one game that I would love to do a review on. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokami Chronicles. Just before the holidays, I finished the anime. Or well, what's available on Netflix. I knew a game had come out, thanks to the state of play, so I decided to give it a shot. I enjoyed the combat in the show, so I was really looking forward to this. To start with, I played through the game on the PlayStation 5, set to 60 frames per second. I focused on the story mode since that was my real interest. However, I did play a few rounds of the verses. I came into this game with no real expectations and no knowledge of the game's inner workings. I had assumed that it was going to be a game similar to Devil May Cry, or something along those lines. And that could not be further from the reality. Demon Slayer is an arena fighter with a decent roster of characters available. I really love the art direction they went with. It's a fun, cel-shaded art style, and it makes it look really close to the anime. The combat effects are wonderful. Seeing the water from Tanjiro's sword as he does the techniques from the show was really everything you can ask for. I played through the game with the English voice acting, and it was actually all really well done. It felt just like the anime. I actually looked it up, and at least Tanjiro is played by the same person as he is in the show, so I'm willing to bet most of them are. I am by no means a fighting game aficionado. I have played a huge number of them, but never at a hugely competitive level, nor playing online all the time or anything like that. I get stomped too hard, too fast, and I know my limits. From my perspective, the combat here is fun and seemingly balanced enough to allow fun to actually blossom, without completely destroying the other person you're playing with. Combos have a time limit, depicted by a wheel counting down on your side of the screen, so thankfully no-hit perma combos, they're not a thing in this. There's no combos where you hit a specific button combination or anything of that sort. It's all based on a single attack button, a guard button, and a skill button. The only real modifier is moving the left stick while you're doing a skill. So if you move the stick while you push the skill button, you'll do a moving skill rather than the stationary skill. It's really strange to explain, but it actually feels pretty intuitive when you're playing the game. Within the game, they have 17 characters that are unlockable without any updates. 6 have been added in the post-release as just updates for free. There is also another one available via just downloadable content that you have to pay for. That number is likely to rise in the future. So there isn't a huge roster here, but it's fittingly sized for the story and the content of the anime that it's coming from. And in that roster of 23 characters, a couple of them are actually repeated. There's 3 different versions of Tanjiro, there's 2 versions of Nezuko, there's a little bit of overlap there. In the story mode, they have the game divided into 8 chapters, and each chapter has a storyline. Inside of that storyline, there are combat sections, exploration sections, and locked cutscenes that are called memory fragments. The combat sections are pretty straightforward. Fight and win to move on. The exploration sections are frustrating. The character you're controlling, which most of the time is Tanjiro, feels like they're moving underwater the entire time. It feels so incredibly slow. If you were even kind of a completionist, or want to unlock all of the characters, which I assume you do, it's a fighting game, you will have to check the map over and over again in order to get all of the hidden things on the map. There's memory fragments, Kimetsu points, and exclamation marks that are hidden all over the place. Thankfully, they do show you on the map, but it still takes forever to get to all of those things. Getting all of the exclamation marks for each exploration section can unlock characters as well as skins and other customization stuff for your Versus player ID. The Kimetsu points are used to buy pieces to customize your Versus player ID as well. They can be used to unlock characters, but I wouldn't suggest that. You get so few from the story that it's not really viable to do that.
Not a chance! My sword is so heavy!
The story of the game is quite literally a one-for-one with the first season of the anime. The final chapter of the game does move a little past the first season into the movie. This lends it quite well to someone coming in who hasn't seen any of Demon Slayer whatsoever. Myself, coming directly from the anime to the game, was a little rough, to be honest. It felt like watching the same thing I had just watched, except now instead of it being drawn, it's in a game engine. That won't be a bad thing to most people. The story is great, and it's fun to be a part of. My issue was I had literally just watched the anime, so that took away from the game for me. There is a lot of dialogue and a lot of cutscenes to watch here. This is coming from an entire season of anime, so it's going to have to squeeze a lot of it in. All of the comedy that we know and love from Zenitsu and Inosuke, it's all still here, and it's well worth the time for the game in its own right.
All this constant whining about dying. Aren't you a little ashamed of yourself? It's pathetic to cling to the sleeves of a little kid. Why does a coward like you have a sword on his hip in the first place?
Those words, they cut right to my core.
In the end, the game lives up to what I had hoped for it to be, just more of the Demon Slayer universe to play around in. It's fun and interesting to see all of the different combos that you can string together. I really wish you could speed up the exploration areas though. If you're interested in this world or loved the anime, I would recommend the game, preferably on a sale. If you're just doing the single player, the game is maybe 8 hours long. I could see you getting a lot more value out of it if you're invested in the Versus mode though, for sure. Anyway guys, that's it for this review. Have any of y'all played through this one? Or maybe watched the anime? What did you think? I really need to sit down and watch the new episodes. Apparently 7 episodes of Season 2 are out already.